Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere south of Chicago, following our DNC trip. My name's Brian Engelman, and this is the Agree to Disagree show on the new American media because the old American media has failed you. Today's episode is going to be a fun one. We have Bob Frantz joining us in studio, virtual studio it is. Bob, thank you so much for connecting and joining us on the Agree to Disagree show. How are you today?
Why did you go to the DNC?
Well, my story arc began on January 6th when we were in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And we interviewed people man on the street, and we were there at the end when it got pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
I later went to the Bronx and saw President Trump speak in front of that crowd, and I did some reporting for Real America's Voice, got on with Posobiec. They used a couple segments on Bannon's show afterward. Then I went to D.C. for the Libertarian Convention, where, by the way, Joe Biden was invited, but much like the Gold Star families, who they invited the president and they declined. President Trump showed up and spoke in Arlington. We can get into that. But Biden declined, but Vivek Ramaswamy showed up, RFK Jr. showed up, and Donald Trump showed up asking for libertarian votes. Then we went to Milwaukee for the RNC, and then we went to Chicago for the DNC. So it's a full arc trying to get all the nooks and crannies, the pieces of this 2024 election cycle.
Well, that's admirable. You know, if you really want to say I saw everything and I went everywhere in the interest of I don't know, thoroughness and completion, I suppose that's a good thing. I just couldn't stand it. First of all, I couldn't stand being in Chicago if I had to be on a bet, because I don't want to get shot.
I know they call it Chirac.
Yeah.
But I've been there twice. Our band almost moved to Chicago, and I loved it the first time. And I'm telling you, like, I spent a week there. I loved it again. The different restaurants, the different bars, the people, no sketchy circumstances. Of course, we were also embedded with the Free Palestine people who were yelling and shrieking at the Israeli consulate and
another reason
shrieking at the DNC. So
that
was the whole thing.
I mean, even if it wasn't the DNC being there, it's Chicago in the state that it is now, and with the number of shootings they have every weekend. Now, admittedly, you were there Monday through Thursday, I guess, if you stayed for the whole thing, so you weren't there on a weekend. But, they get around 40, 50, 60 shootings a weekend, usually about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fatalities every weekend. That's without the, free Palestine and all of the, the terrorist sympathizers there. And then, of course, with all the communists and the Marxists that are there for the DNC, man, I couldn't have done it. I mean, it was all I could do to watch enough of it on TV to be able to make informed commentary, offer informed commentary on all my shows. Just to do it that way. To see it in person, bro, I give you credit, man. I give you credit.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for those kind words. I just feel like we have a bit of a responsibility to really go out and see what's happening. The new American media started once we realized that we weren't getting information from news companies. What do they say? If you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. If you do watch the news, you're misinformed. So I think we've always taken pride in going to the events, whether it's Bundy Ranch outside of Las Vegas, we Occupy LA. We were credentialed media for 2016 at the RNC in Cleveland. We went to Philadelphia for the DNC when they were rigging their other primary against Bernie, which we can get into because the Dems love rigging their democracy, even though we're a constitutional republic, of course. But yeah, that's just kind of been one of the cornerstones of our program, trying to get the information out. And we just won't have the same opinion on things if we're observing it from afar and letting someone else filter that to us. And of course, you have your programs that you do. So I guess let's kind of start there, strictly speaking. And now you have a new one, Cops Under Fire.
Yeah.
Tell us about both of these. Let's start with the new one first, because there's probably less to talk about there, but it's more timely.
Well, it's also just very, very necessary, man. There's a candidate for president who literally continues to speak down about cops, to say that more police officers don't make cities safe, and all the other nonsense we hear from Kamala Harris. And the abolish the cops movement wasn't that long ago. The defund the cops movement wasn't that long ago. And again, now you've got a nominee that wants to, essentially, replace cops. She wants to get cops off the streets. The whole. I mean, what was the latest thing? What was the crap about? They want to. They want to disarm police officers who conduct traffic stops. Did you see that? They want to disarm cops who control, because if you're there over a broken taillight, why do you need to be armed and escalating that situation? If you're there for somebody made an illegal right turn, or if somebody was speeding or whatever, I mean, all that does is, I was reading this just a few days ago, and I'm thinking to myself, do you idiots know how many cops get shot because they pull over a car that had a broken taillight or that made a rolling stop or whatever, and the person inside of it doesn't want to be stopped for that because they have a bunch of freaking coke or whatever in the car? Cops get shot on traffic stops all the time. So Cops Under Fire is a new show from TruBlu, which is TruBlu is an amazing new company. It takes the concept of Cops, the TV show Cops, and it puts it on bullet-riddled steroids, man. On Cops, as you know, they don't show people being shot. They show everything that might lead up to certain things, and they show the confrontations, and and all of the the language is cleaned up and everything else because it's been on network TV for years. Cops Under Fire, being on streaming television, has no guardrails. And so it is without question the most violent law enforcement related television show that has probably ever been on. It is fully transparent, body camera, footage from multiple officers' body cams, dash cams, surveillance cams, just about everything you can think of. And it's literally about when cops come under fire, when they get themselves into firefights, whether it be something if they know they're pursuing, a dangerous and violent and armed, suspect, or if they don't expect that and it's something, it's just they expect to be something, moderate in terms of, threat level that turns into something else. They're under assault, man, and they're being shot at and they're shooting back. And these episodes that we just started airing, there'll be new ones dropping every Friday. And so we're one episode in. That's as far as what's dropped. We got about 10 episodes, in the can and ready to go right now. But they're going to, different cities where these things have happened and showing it all and showing what happens and showing, the other side of the story. And as I kind of say in the close of the, of the episodes, what you see on the news is one small part of a story when it comes to a police, involved shooting. There are so many more things that lead up to that never make the news. They'll show you the 30-second or the 15-second or the 6-second clip or whatever right up until, the moment of truth. And they don't show the stuff that led up to it. They don't, you can't hear the interactions, and in this show, like I said, nothing is hidden. I mean, when cops say "on your face, motherfucker," they say it, and they can. And I'm telling you, it's one of the most intense things you're ever going to watch. Life and death situations playing out for real, and and it feels a little bit awkward for me, to be honest with you, because I'm in a studio hosting and narrating, and they got me wearing a bulletproof vest. And, but the reason why is the bulletproof vest is the sponsor of the show. And thank you to Spartan Tactical, because they're the ones who actually sponsored this show. It makes sense. Cops Under Fire. So this is what the guys wear, the cops wear. So I'm wearing it basically for brand recognition, but it's not to look badass or anything else. I saw a couple of comments already with people saying, what the hell is that all about? It's not like I'm out there being shot at myself. It's very, very true, but it's basically brand positioning because that's the sponsor of the show.
I just got one of my good friends. I lived in Los Angeles for a while, escaped a few years ago, thankfully. But he's still out there behind enemy lines, and he just hit me up. We were talking about the Venezuelan gang situation. We can definitely unpack some of that in Aurora, Colorado. But and he just kind of out of nowhere, he's like, "Yeah, I just got a death threat." I go, "You what?" He goes, yeah, somebody called me, said, is this so and so? I'm going to come get you. I'm going to do this. Like, he reported it to the police. He's like, but this has gotten really weird. Everything has gotten weird in this country with military aged men strategically positioned across the country. Maybe just in case the power grid goes down and then everyone knows who to target and it's going to be game on for about 24 hours of the purge is what I fear could be happening. I also want to remind myself and remind the listeners to say a prayer for the safety of both the Kamala Harris and Donald Trump campaigns. Donald Trump, so he can be voted back in for his rightful term that he was robbed of in 2020, and Kamala Harris, so that she's not martyred by the deep state, so they can pin it on MAGA in order to try to swing this upcoming election.
It's a scary thing to think about, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I agree with you. It's and I don't want to. I'm not a purveyor or supporter of political violence at all. But what you just said about military-age males being the overwhelming majority of the 10, 11, 12 million people who have come across the border in the last 3.5 years, so many of them Chinese nationals, so many of them from terrorist states. It's insane what we're facing, and the worst part about what I was just saying about what cops face, and the fact that they're constantly under I don't want to say criticism, that's not the right word. They're under assault, if not from the actual criminals in the assault phase, but from the lawyers and the cities and so on and so forth that don't have their backs. But so they can't do their jobs effectively or as effectively as they used to be able to do. And what is plan B for us? Protect yourself against all of these military age males, which means arm up. And if the same people that are coming down on the cops and making their jobs impossible to do are the ones that are trying to take our Second Amendment rights away from us or limit them significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just crazy. I mean, so it's like, what, leave us to the mercy of bad people, bad actors out there? We can't get cops there in time because there aren't enough of them anymore because of what they've done with the defunding and the stigmatizing and the attacks on them and so forth. And we can't defend ourselves. It's like, what the hell are we supposed to do? You talk about a purge, man. I mean, I'll just tell you this. Do not register your weapons. Don't give them any place to come looking. And I'm just telling you, if you can get your weapons, and I'm talking about law-abiding citizens, arm up and arm heavy, because you don't know when it's coming. You really don't. None of us do. And there just may not be anybody to stand between us, stand in the breach, if you will, between us and the bad guys when the time comes. And if you've got a family to protect, it's going to be our responsibility, more so than probably at any time, in my lifetime, and maybe even much beyond that.
Yeah, the Minutemen of yesteryear.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to be ready, like what does it say in the Bible? Like a thief in the night. I mean, just it'll snap like that. I don't know if you ever read William Forstchen's 1 Second After with the foreword by Newt Gingrich about the EMP.
I did an hour-long interview on my Strictly Speaking show with William Forstchen. It's a great read, and I agree with you 100%. If you're not prepared for that, get prepared for that before it's too late.
So tell us where to find the new show one more time, and then we'll go back to Strictly Speaking out of order.
So TruBlu and Strictly Speaking are both from the TruBlu streaming television channel, and it's watchtrueblu.com. That's a subscription service. But not Strictly Speaking. Cops Under Fire, for crying out loud. I couldn't remember the name of it.
You're only one show in. It's okay. We're trying to get it right.
To say TruBlu, and it's not TruBlu. It's Cops Under Fire. Cops Under Fire, we actually started out by loading up on YouTube, and it's going to be on free video services for a while. And the main reason is Brian, it's every bit as violent as I'm describing, and that scares some sponsors away. So before we put it on the channel, the fast channels that we have, like Chris Hansen's Takedown with Chris Hansen, which is, an extension of what he used to do on NBC with To Catch a Predator. He's catching all these child predator perverts. It was supposed to go on the fast channels, which stands for free ad-supported channels like Roku or television, like Roku, Plex TV, and a whole bunch LG, and a whole bunch of others, Fire TV. But we're putting it on YouTube first, just so that we can kind of get it out there and get a feel for it before it goes on the FAST channels, because the concern is that a lot of the FAST channels, the providers themselves and the sponsors might just be a little uncomfortable. Even though it's not on, network television and thus subject to the FCC, we don't want to upset the sponsors either. We just, we warn people ahead of time. It's going to be violent. You're going to see people die, and there's going to be an average of probably 2 dead bodies on every show. That you're going to see people go from being alive to dead because of what happens in these cops under fire situations. So
this
right
is
now
going to
it's
be this is going to be a gritty
is.
one.
It is. It really is. And so that's why it's on YouTube right now, so that you can see it there. And then Strictly Speaking is also on watchtrueblu.com. That's just my interview show, and it's podcast style. It's usually about an hour. Sometimes, depending on the guest and their schedule, we'll go for a half an hour, sometimes about an hour and a half, a little similar to this one. And it's that's just my talk show, and that's just, we get into everything. I mean, I talk to musicians, I talk to athletes, I talk to authors, I talk to politicians, I talk to pop culture icons and so forth. I mean, just a little bit of everything. It's, it's not intended to be a political show all the time. It's so weird, though, the culture that we're in right now. Everything becomes political. I mean, I have musicians on, and eventually talk goes to politics. I have athletes on, and eventually it goes to politics. Everything seems to be, wrapped around it right now, but it's not intended to be only a political talk show. It just kind of works out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, like I said, it's wide ranging. It is free form, and we just talk about anything and everything that these individuals have, that they're working on. So that's something I'm really proud of too.
Nice. By the way, we're getting a comment from Kenneth in the chat section about the level of your volume, and I believe I boosted it in the studio, so I'm checking to see if we have equalized now.
Yeah, well, you know what? I can try to lift my gain a little bit here on my settings. Let me know if this helps a little bit. Does that help?
Yeah, that has definitely
okay.
So I think I will drag you back just a scotch, and hopefully that'll be good there. You were mentioning just a second ago about, you're trying not to make everything political, but how in the world do we avoid it these days? And I pulled up this thing here. I've been ready to get to this topic for about 10 minutes here, but you and I think, I'm trying to remember how we met. I think you ended up joining the Unhappy Hour sports show somehow.
Yeah.
And then we
think
went
that's
back
where I found it
about the greatest of all time debate in the NBA. And that kind of brings a nexus point here to this LeBron James story, deleting the tweet where he was targeting the cop who fatally shot a teen. The headline doesn't even mention that, this young girl was being attacked by a crazy woman with a knife, when the hero cop jumped in and saved an innocent person's life. When we're tuning in basketball, we kind of just want to be distracted. We want to have a good experience. We want to have a nice exchange and disconnect from our day. But I think it was Barack Hussein Obama that convinced LeBron James that he had to go Muhammad Ali, fist in the air, working for the DNC, apparently. But this is one of the most, to dox a cop like that and to pump this Nike, Kaepernick, racist, divisive, incorrect narrative. I'm trying to unpack where this came from. Sports didn't always used to be this way. It used to just kind of be focused on the game. Of course, we had civil rights leaders, Muhammad Ali, and a lot of people broke down a lot of barriers. But I mean, what are we to say for this? I mean, Bob, your television show is about police showing up and then things go sideways real fast. I mean, we had a hero here and we had this LeBron James situation. And it's just, to me, it's disgusting. It's disappointing. I think we can probably agree on that. I think LeBron is the greatest of all time, with his all-around resume of statistics and whatnot, and his complete game. But this type of stuff is just, it's maddening. I don't understand why this has been infused into sports where I don't feel like it needs to be.
When you called me right before we started recording, this is my text window.
Yeah.
And you can see the BE. I don't know if you can see this, or I don't know if
Maybe
this will work or not.
Oh, it might be. Yeah, it might be
It
glared
might
out.
be glaring. Yeah, that's not going to work very well.
Maybe if you covered it with your hand. Maybe if you framed it with. Oh, now I'm seeing some. Yes. Okay.
Can you read any of that at all?
I can see the blue bar.
Well, I wanted to show you this part of it because you're in my phone as Brian Engelman, and then I don't know if you have since you use one of those silly androids.
I love it.
Yeah, I cannot stand them. But the contact name and profile of the individual that you're talking to, you can put in their their organization or affiliation or whatever you want to call it. So it's like Bernie Moreno, and underneath it says Senate candidate. And Jim Jordan.
Hopefully a victor, an upcoming victor as well.
Yeah, hopefully, right. So anyway, when my phone rang, when you called me right before this, Brian Engelman's little thing that came up there, and I wish to hell I could show this to you. We say I got the virtual background.
Yeah,
maybe there's an angle that on there. Can you see what it says under the BE? Can you see? Probably not.
Oh wait, hold on. Oh wait, hold on. Okay, I tried to full screen. It went the wrong full screen. Hold on. There we go. Man, I'm close. Can you do a screenshot and text it to me?
Well, I wanted to show it to everybody else who might be watching, just so everybody can.
If
this is what you have.
I'll put it on the air.
Okay, I can do that. I'll screenshot it to you. But this is literally. Let me go ahead and do that while we're just sitting here chatting. It's gonna. And
by the way, while we're sitting here chatting, once again, let me just remind people to check out Bob Frantz. He is on X at Strict Speaking. Oh, it's Strict Speaking. I thought it was Strict.
No, it is Strictly, but I had the @ handle. The actual name on it is Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz, but the @ handle had too many letters. It has to be 15 characters or less, and Strictly Speaking is 16. So that's why I had to cut it to Strict Speaking to fit. So anyway, can you see what your job title is?
Yes, yeah. It says LeBron La Lover. Yeah. LeBron La Lover.
That's what I think of when I think of you. And that is because of the way we first started interacting with one another on that Unhappy Sports Show page. And you and all of your sycophantic sucking up of LeBron freaking James, unlike anybody I have ever freaking known. I mean, there's like you and Bronny. Those are probably the two biggest suck-ups to LeBron James that I can even imagine. Maybe Rob Pelinka, since he actually got talked into drafting Bronny to make LeBitchy happy. So that's it's interesting that you brought up LeBron, because that's literally what I have as your job title is LeBron La Lover. And your ridiculous, insane arguments about his GOAT status make me just want to like break things. Having said all of that, you came on here criticizing him for his BS with police officers. And the only thing I can say to follow up on that, dude, is when that lying son of a bitch tried to claim that somebody painted the N-word on his garage door at one of his houses in Los Angeles or Beverly Hills or where the hell ever it was. Remember that a few years ago?
The Jussie Smollett of his time.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And he said that happened. And when people came to investigate,
we got to see the video of that, right?
What's that?
We got to see the video.
Yeah,
right?
Except for the fact that when people came to take videos and pictures of it, it was all painted over. There wasn't anything there. It's like, wait a minute, what happened? Well, we didn't want to leave it up there and let other people, but just trust us that it happened. Somebody's calling me an N-word. He's looking for the martyr status, if you will, that he's being attacked, and the people who don't like him because of his skin color. There you go, LeBron La Lover.
LeBron La Lover.
When he I have despised him for a very long time for many, many reasons. That one put it over the top for me. Because, he's trying to make it appear as though, again, that because he criticizes police officers, police officers are racist. His people don't like him and don't think he's the greatest basketball player ever. They're racist. He painted over it, but I get it. If you've got that vile word on your property and somebody really did that to you, I get you'd want to cover it up as soon as possible. But you know what you do for the sake of evidence? If you want a police investigation of it, take pictures of it, take video of it, hand it to police and say, here you go. See if you can find out who did this, because this is unacceptable.
We already
up.
cleaned it off, he said. We already cleaned it up.
We already cleaned it off and painted over it, I thought.
Let's see your footage. Our security cameras weren't working today. Oh, they weren't. Your 45 cameras and your in-house security team. Nobody caught that, and you cleaned up the thing. Who knows how to clean up spray paint on different... It was all over his garage door. I'm sure it was probably on brick or on stucco. It was probably on 3 or 4 or 5 different surfaces. And that was all clean.
And they cleaned it off or painted over it or whatever it was. And yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line here. This guy is a liar. He is a liar. He has no credibility. He has no credibility when it comes to anything, quite frankly. And so I've despised him for a very long time. The fact that he is indeed, he was one of the leaders of wearing the I can't breathe shirts and hands up, don't shoot shirts and stuff. And he's just a divisive, race baiting, individual who is so narcissistic and so in love with himself, he has to tell people that he's the greatest basketball player of all time. He says those words. And what does that say about you, by the way? First of all, from a character standpoint, if you have to tell people that, you clearly just, narcissism, I think we have to create a new word, LeBronicism. I don't know, but it's worse than narcissism. But second of all, this big running debate, which has somehow become a 2-person debate, which it absolutely shouldn't be, because he's got about 4 or 5 other people to pass before he gets to Michael Jordan's level. But when you've got to tell,
you have around 5 or 6.
But when you've got to tell people that you're the greatest ever, you know what Michael Jordan has never done? He has never said that. And in fact, he has said, I would never say such things because that does such extraordinary disrespect to the greatest players of all time that came before me. And so when you let other people say it about you, it has a hell of a lot more value than you getting in your barbershop and getting on your little podcast and saying, well, of course, I'm the greatest player of all time. There is nothing redeemable about that guy, including, by the way, his I Promise school in Akron, which he took credit for as being, he bought it. He paid for all of these kids. No. He made a big investment in the building, and that was the end of it. And then the taxpayers of Akron, Ohio, it's a taxpayer-funded school. It's not a private school. The taxpayers of Akron have to pay way more money for all of the students who go to that school than they do for the rest of the regular Akron public schools. And guess what? It's a failing school. I mean, like 20% of the kids can read at grade level and hardly any of them can do math at grade level. So it's just this whole thing about, he does such great work for the kids and, so much dedication. I'm telling you, Brian, one of the most unlikable guys who should be loved. He should be loved because his accomplishments are extraordinary. His talent is extraordinary. But he has made himself so freaking unlikable. And then to add in, obviously, what you just put up there with respect to the police and the other things like that, man, I just can't with that guy. He's one of the reasons I don't watch sports anymore. He's one of the reasons I don't watch the NBA. He's the primary reason I don't watch the NBA. Not the only, but he is primary. But all of the other sports that have gone woke to, I think I can link a lot of it back to LeBron James. I really can.
Talking with Bob Frantz here. Yeah, I also took a similar hardline stance on Baker Mayfield. Not calling him the greatest of all time. That it was a slightly different conversation, but at a time where it was very unpopular to stick with Baker, and he was getting trashed for he had an injured season. Oh, he's a bum. He's garbage. Get rid of him. It's like, no, I didn't see it that way, and I planted my flag on that hill and said, I have determined that I'm defending this guy. I don't think he got quite a fair shake in things, and I planted my flag, and I've stood by that conviction for a while. And it is tough to separate LeBron the person, LeBron the shitty tipper, LeBron the racist, LeBron the DNC lackey, LeBron coughing and making fun of Dirk Nowitzki, which kind of, I was listening to an interview, I think it was with JJ Barea or somebody. They were talking about how like something snapped with Dirk Nowitzki when he saw that he was being made fun of by the guys on the Heat, and like he just elevated his game to like GOAT status to take them out, which I enjoyed thoroughly.
I did too.
I rooted against LeBron thoroughly. I was in Los Angeles screaming when we called them the Dallas Cavricks, or we called them
I remember, yeah.
Mavaliers.
Mavaliers was another one. Yep.
So I rooted against LeBron as much as anyone did. But when he came back to Cleveland, I appreciated that. He broke a curse. Jordan never had to break a curse. And he gave me the only championship I've ever been able to celebrate in Cleveland professional sports history of my lifetime. I've watched the Indians slip through their fingers multiple times, and now the team's gone. I will never see a Cleveland Indians World Series, Bob. Has that hit you? Because you're from this area, and you're
I'm from Elyria. I mean, look, and let me tell you how much I rooted against LeBron James. I rooted against him when he was with the Miami Heat. I rooted against him now that he was with the LA Lakers. But my revulsion for that piece of crap is so bad. I couldn't even enjoy the title when he came here and helped us get it. I couldn't, because I mean, I was thanking the sports gods that it was Kyrie that hit the game winner. I was just loving that. And then I loved that we still had to get a stop down on the other end. And it was Kevin Love who put on the clamps. I mean, and so, LeBron had the block. Everybody remembers the block, the shot, and the stop.
Yes.
And they were all obviously equally important. But that game-winning shot going in from Kyrie I celebrated, but my celebration was muted because he was at the center of it. I will stand by the way, it should have been co-MVPs in the finals that year. I don't think without Kyrie Irving, they don't have a chance at that. And I don't think without LeBron, they didn't have a chance at that. The two of them played extraordinarily well, apart and together to win that thing. But I couldn't even enjoy it fully as a longtime Cleveland sports sufferer because of him, because he, and for him to be such, I don't even know what to call him, but to come back home as if somehow he was chased away. He chose to leave to win. Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five. I'm going to go through all of them because this is how freaking asinine he sounded. Not six, not seven. I think his seven is where he finally stopped when he was doing that BS.
I think so too.
And then got smoked by the Mavericks like you were talking about the first time. So he didn't have to leave. He chose to leave. It's not like he was traded and then, found his way back like I've been wanting to come home, Cleveland. No, you abandoned the fans there, so F you. Then you come back and then you bail again because you know what your goal is. Your goal is to catch Mike. And the only way to do that is to go chase more super teams down. See what you can do to find something to counter the Warriors, because you can't, that's the one thing Mike did. Mike lost to the Celtics. Mike lost to the Pistons. Mike didn't bail and go play with Larry Bird. Mike said, make our team better. Bring more guys here. I'm right here. I'm Chicago. This is it. And he doesn't understand that. So I couldn't even celebrate the championship. But I will tell you this, I was with you on Baker, and I still am, and I'm glad he got paid by the Buccaneers.
Yep.
I think he had a phenomenal season last year. I think the way it ended was obviously a rough thing, but it's not anything that a lot of great players haven't done at the end of a playoff game before. But I think he got treated poorly. I think the fans here treated him like crap.
Fans. It really splintered the franchise.
It did, yeah.
It just like when the Indians changed their name to the Guardians. I mean, it fractured an undividable fan base. It broke it into pieces.
Yeah.
Well, at least two large pieces.
And the Indians doing that is why I don't watch baseball anymore. I mean, do you have any idea how much of my career was spent working for these franchises? I did Cavaliers television back in 2011, 2012 when they lost 26 games in a row or whatever it was. I was doing Cavaliers pre and post and halftime shows with Campy Russell and I did Indians pre and post game, or I'm sorry, post game shows for years and years. I did Browns radio network work. I mean, I lived with these teams. I don't even watch them anymore because of what collectively sports has become. What they did, during the BLM movement to divide fans and to essentially try to make everybody who isn't, wearing a BLM flag or logo or having a fist in the air that they're all white supremacists and all that other crap. They put BLM on the mound when baseball came back. After the riots in 2020, they put it on in the end zones in football. They put it behind the baseline in basketball. Major League Baseball took the All-Star game away from Atlanta, Georgia, a predominantly majority black city, and the $200 or $300 million of economic development that All-Star weekend would have brought that city. They took it away from them because Georgia dared to pass a voter ID, photo ID voter law, so that everybody, can make sure that their, votes are legitimate. And they said, well, that's racist. That's white supremacist. You're disenfranchising black voters. So we're going to take the All-Star game away unless you change that. And the state of Georgia said, no, we're not changing that. So they took the All-Star game away from a predominantly, majority black city that would have been able to use a few $100 million in economic development for a weekend. And they gave it to Denver, Colorado, one of the liliest white cities in the country. And they moved the All-Star game there. And in the interest of helping black people, they said they took money away from black people and gave it to a bunch of white people. So I between that and what the Indians did by changing the name and caving in so that they could get their own All-Star game, I'm just done, man. I've given my life to these teams, and I can't anymore. I just can't.
Well, I call it the unhappy hour because as a Cleveland fan, I mean, the misery we've sports blue balls. You get so close to that championship, and it's just ninth inning, extra innings. You lose it twice in extras in Game 7. That's never happened except to us twice. The drive, the fumble, the shot. It's just been, we've been on the wrong side of it. So that's why I called it the unhappy hour. I've been a bartender, and I was like, well, not the happy hour. How about the unhappy hour?
It works.
It does. And sports is supposed to be my pleasant distraction from the terrors of breaking news and geopolitics. But Cleveland sports is so bad. Sometimes I got to go over to politics. I'm like, I can't take this sports shit anymore. Like it's driving me batty. I did have this question when you're talking about your new show, and you were just kind of talking about it. It got me thinking about all the BLM stuff. Your show about with the cops, is it the content that you're using? Is this all new footage? Are you trying to go to like historical events? Because I feel like the whole George Floyd situation would have been very different had everyone been exposed to the beginning of that video when they walk up to the car and he's expressing difficulty in breathing at that time.
Yeah. When he was screaming that he didn't want to sit in the back seat of the car.
He's led to the back and he's in there and he wiggles out and gets like this was just like the most routine arrest you've ever seen, except allegedly there was an overdose. And then he got on the ground and he got, the knee that looked like it was on the neck, but it was in the shoulder. Yeah. Like, do you have any interest in going like back to some historical things to like re-review the Rittenhouse or the George Floyd or like flashpoints of the last decade? It's just because I feel like people would love to. People would benefit from understanding the full scope of what sparked all that.
I don't disagree with you at all. I would like to do those things, but not on this show. This show is specifically about shootouts and cops being attacked.
Okay, so there were no shootouts.
It's called Cops Under Fire. Yeah.
But you could arguably say that no incident put cops under fire more than that event.
Very true. No, that's very true. But
they're getting executed in Dallas, all across the country, New York.
Yeah, the producers and the writers don't have any interest in doing that because their goal isn't to like try to, look, I'll tell you what, nobody could do it any better than Liz Collin did anyway. And if anybody has not seen a movie called The Fall of Minneapolis, I'm just telling you right now, go to that website. It is as simple as that, thefallofminneapolis.com. And the movie, it's about an hour and a half long documentary made by a news journalist in Minneapolis named Liz Collin. I did a full interview with her on Strictly Speaking to go inside the making of this movie. It's called The Fall of Minneapolis. And it breaks everything down moment by moment, frame by frame, scene by scene, not just ending with the incident, but the trial of Derek Chauvin, the complete railroading of these cops by Governor Tim Walz, by the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, by the judge in the case. I mean, Brian, it's freaking infuriating to know what was done, in that situation. The whole movie, I can't recommend it highly enough. And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to download it for $5.99. It's free at thefallofminneapolis.com. It does exactly what you just said. And so it's been done. And, and the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, there's probably going to be more documentaries written about that. It's just not the focus of this particular show. I wouldn't be surprised if they did make a documentary with our sister company, which is Transition Studios, which is, in fact, that was the original company that TruBlu is an offshoot of. Sean Reck is the director and the owner of the company. And he has made some extraordinary documentaries about true crime stories that you would not believe, as far as getting them wrong, the criminal justice system failing. If you like that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
Brian, there's a movie that you should watch. It's called A Murder in the Park. And it's a story of Al Story Simon, who is an African-American guy in Chicago who was convicted of murder. And I don't want to give too much of it away, but he was falsely convicted. There was a lot of real corrupt. See, and that's the nice thing. It's an important thing about the company that I do these shows for and their attitude. Sean often says, we're a true crime network. Are we pro-cop? Yes. Are we copaganda? No. Because
propaganda. I've never heard that.
Yeah. Because they will expose corrupt police activities. They will expose cops who get it wrong. They'll do that. We've done that. So this story that I'm talking about, which became an award-winning movie, it's called A Murder in the Park. You should watch, and you'll find out what happens when corrupt cops trying to solve a case with the easy way, basically, and they don't care whose life they ruin as a result of it. We like to call those guys out because the more bad cops you root out of the system, the more respect there is for the system.
That's unlike the rest of them. That's unlike the teachers' unions. They will keep the bad apples.
Yeah,
a whole bunch.
Well
and
said.
It ruins the whole profession. You're like, we got to get rid of the Department of Education if that's what you're going to be. Yeah. But yeah, copaganda. I'm very. I can't stand dirtbags that take advantage of good people. I don't like it. It ignites something within me. I don't know exactly what that sheep herder, that shepherd philosophy of just looking after the flock is, but. Yeah, I remember when
did you see the Canton one just a few days ago? The guy who kicked the guy in the chest who was on his knees, in this big bust. It was just literally a few days ago, and I don't know when.
I might have missed that one.
Yeah,
you have that on your X feed, I'm imagining.
I don't think I do actually. I don't do X well. I got to figure out how to do social.
X is one of the only decent companies like this.
Yeah, so I agree.
I never liked X. It's clunky. It's never felt right to me, but I said, fine, I'll pay $8 a month. I'm going to do the thing. Number one, so I can stream. I don't have that access unless I unlock that door. But it's such. I have to change my ad dollars, my minutes spent per app. I've moved my YouTube app several screens over to remind me, no, idiot, go to Rumble. YouTube is a trash company. Google is trash. Yes. Only do YouTube if you must. Don't do Facebook. It's the most well put together platform. It's the easiest to cross pollinate and share, but it's trash. Let's try to do Truth Social or X. So I'm
almost all of it is trash, to be honest with you. But X has gotten better when Elon bought it, but yet I still suffer. I know I do from algorithmic, suppression somehow, some way. I mean, I only have like 7,500 followers on there. I don't do it well. I don't follow the strategies. There are strategies about when to post things, to whom to respond in order to grow engagement and so on. And I don't know what it is, and I don't really pay attention to it. But I do know that with 7,500 followers on there, whenever I post something that is pretty substantial and pretty important, and it says it reached 75 people, then I know it's not being pushed. It's not being spread out to all of the people that do follow me, which of course leads to more engagement, a lot more. So I have a big problem with that in and of itself. But I'll tell you something about how bad YouTube is, but yet how powerful and important it is. I did an interview on my show on Strictly Speaking. Trying to remember his name, and I feel bad for not remembering it. But he's got a conservative platform, and he's got about 2 million YouTube subscribers and followers. Well, he has been shut down by YouTube because of complaints about the content, none of which is egregious, none of which is.
Is it Prager?
No. Prager deals with that too. No, it's not. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's all right.
But at any rate, he has been demonetized by YouTube numerous times.
Yeah.
They have basically, suspended his account until he removes the offending content, which turns out to be a significant portion of his library. And most of it, 99.9% of it, it wouldn't cross any community guidelines other than people don't want to hear it because it's conservative in nature. And Google is the most woke company in the world, maybe more so than BlackRock, for crying out loud. The most dangerous company in the world because they control the flow of information. They control what you can say and who can hear what you said. They can control what you see, you hear from other people. But anyway, so I said to him when I was interviewing and he was describing this freaking nightmarish existence that he has to deal with on YouTube. And I say, why don't you just dump it and go to Rumble? And he said, because it's worth going through all of the headaches that I have to, because it is still that much larger than all of the other platforms. He can still, even while being shadow banned and suspended and suppressed and demonetized, once he jumps over, or jumps through all of their hoops and dots all of the I's and crosses the T's that they want to, he said he can still reach more people and make more money from monetization through YouTube than he can with anyone else. So they've got us in a place where we kind of have no choice but to patronize them and use them if we want to reach them. At the new show I just told you about. Guess what? We're putting it on YouTube. Cops Under Fire is on YouTube. Is it because we like YouTube? No. Is it because we like Google? No. It's because we want to reach as many eyes as possible, and YouTube still gives you that opportunity. It'll go to Rumble eventually too, but the reality is that YouTube is still the 800-pound gorilla, and everybody else is way, way below them.
Yeah, I talked with, I was up in Milwaukee for the RNC and talked with Gerald A. Morgan Jr., the CEO of Louder with Crowder. They have famously, with their half Asian lawyer, have been embroiled in an enormous pile of stuff. And I'm trying to remember if I mentioned it to him in the interview or if I said it off camera, probably at the end of the interview. I said, like, hey, I appreciate what you guys are doing because you guys are hacking up with the machete. You're in the dense fort, like you're just hacking and fighting and fighting. I go, there's thousands of us going in that general direction. Like we're not teammates, we're not partners per se or anything, but the successes that you are creating by clearing some of this path, we're doing some of the work behind you as well. Like we have to fight this. And having Rumble as an option was a game changer for me. I tried a few different sites, VidMe and this and that, and some of it just didn't really pan out. Parler, every time you try one, they do whack-a-mole, whether it's arresting the Telegram guy. And
Parler was great. I really liked Parler before it first got crushed.
Mm-hmm.
When Bongino was part owner of it or a significant part of the ownership. But I liked Parler too, and they crushed that. All the good ones, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of the good ones. And you saw they just arrested the owner of Telegram. For crying out loud, in Europe. So I mean, it's a very, very lonely existence to try to make something happen and to make it, to make it quality, to be able to monetize it, to be able to make a business out of it. If you have a conservative platform, it's just very, very hard.
I think they're saying maybe that whole Telegram thing is about Russian troops communicating in a way that the U.S. can't snoop into. So it's hurting Ukraine because there are 52nd state now. I'm losing track of how many states we have across the globe.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think that might be part of the reason. But I remember we were growing really well, the New American Media, doing great, just benchmark after benchmark. We had John McAfee on the program, former libertarian presidential candidate. Famously got a tattoo that says whacked on his arm. And he says, if anything happens to me in prison, I definitely didn't do it myself. I was whacked. And shortly after, he was allegedly found dead in that, I think it was a Spanish prison when they ended up extraditing him. But the Vault 7 data dump from WikiLeaks was the interview topic. And we had John on the program. And he said, the CIA just got nuked. And that was the title of the show. That thing went to like 150,000 views in like 2-3 hours. And it got zapped, just zapped. Memory hold. We lost our monetization. They're going back years to. They're flagging this. They're flagging sports shows. They're flagging a music interview when I was at the NAMM convention in Anaheim. I'm talking to a manufacturer of a digital drum. Like they're just demonetizing, shadow banning, deranking, deboosting, everything they can to push their fingers on the scale to make sure that only their qualitative, authoritative sources, I think they called it, only those, the ABC, the NBC, the CBS, the ESPN, Disney, only the selected people are allowed to make money. You peons are not allowed to compete with us. We control the airwaves. We control the advertising dollars. That was kind of wrapped up in the PewDiePie. They call it the ad-pocalypse. PewDiePie was like the #1 name in YouTube or something. And in the middle of one of his long skits, he put on a tiny little mustache and raised his hand out to the corner of the thing for 3 seconds. They go, oh, okay, can't monetize independent content anymore. Look at that. That guy referenced a historical figure from the 30s. You're like, and you're just taking away everybody's ability to earn a living on your platform. You're a publisher or a platform, Section 230. Pick a lane. Nobody's ever held these social media companies to account with the Section 230. You're either a publisher who removes and adds content on the perspective you're pushing, or you're a platform, and you get platform coverage as long as you're not censoring, as long as you're not pushing and pulling back on content that you don't like. But they're having their cake and eating it too, and nobody's stopping them.
No, 100% right. And I don't know who can, to be honest with you. I really don't know. Other than people like Elon pushing back. I mean, it's a real difficult ground to traverse to try to get by. Again, especially if you are a conservative, they're going to look for any and every reason they can to cancel you, suppress you. I mean, that's why I got off Twitter. I mean, I had Twitter before everything went crazy. I had around 35,000 people following me, and it was, this is like right before Trump took office, I think, and that was when Dorsey and the Twitter people just went crazy in shadow banning and suppressing. And once they kicked Trump off, I didn't quit Twitter. I didn't kill my account because they kicked Trump off, but it was about the same time, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, because I noticed again I wasn't being seen. I had 35,000 followers, and 140 people saw that. It's like, that's not possible. That cannot be. So I was off of it for about 4 years, and I only came back on it a couple of years ago, and I went and paid the money like you did, primarily so that I can reach, because a lot of the celebrities that I want to book for my radio show or for the TV show, you can't private message them unless you are verified. So so I had to buy a blue check just so that I could reach some people that I need to reach. But they make it very difficult. And like I said, even all of the problems that Elon Musk solved, they're not completely solved, because there are still a lot of very prominent conservative people on Twitter who cannot seem to find a foothold.
Yeah. I've offered this to a couple of people, that maybe you need to start a new X account without all of no matter what Elon was in there, you could imagine him opening up the cabinet going, oh my God. Someone described when he bought Twitter, it's like, you didn't buy a social media platform, you bought a crime scene. Like all of the dirty stuff underneath, all of the child stuff and the gross stuff and the stuff the Dems and the libs really seem to love for some reason. But no matter how many cords and cables that were disconnected and unplugged and yanked out of the wall, it's still rumored that whatever the deep state did when they created X with Dorsey, or whenever they sunk their claws into them and changed it, that there are still hidden pathways that limit the algorithmic reach of content that's seen the whole arc. If I was on old Twitter, now I'm on new Twitter, old Twitter, new Twitter, and now X, I guess, 3 different phases of X. But yeah, maybe starting a brand new profile could maybe cleanse, eat a piece of ginger in between bites of sushi, kind of cleanse the palate and hit refresh with the algorithm. Maybe I don't know either.
I feel like it takes more than that, because it's going by IP. I think if you are using the same IP address, if you're using the same computer, same cell phone, or whatever that you were using before, that's who you are. That's where I think that's what the algorithms pick up. So you could change the name, you could change the @ handle, you could do everything, but you're still going to have restrictions, I think, that you had before. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people are facing. I feel like that's what's happening to me, but I don't know.
I want to circle back to something we were talking about, Cleveland sports and how much time we devoted to them. I want to ask you about this. Here's another interesting, the real world and politics of the moment, the zeitgeist, kind of being fed to us. Trevor Bower. I want to get your thoughts on Trevor Bauer. Obviously, maybe not obviously to other people, but in the 2016 World Series, he was messing around with a drone and he sliced into his finger and he was trying to pitch and it's spilling blood. I mean, it was a bloody mess up there. Then he got annoyed and threw a pitch out of the center field stands. That's something you've never seen before. Goes to Cincinnati, wins a Cy Young, because I always knew the dude had the most raw talent out of probably any pitcher I've seen in a Cleveland uniform in my lifetime. And that's saying something with Cliff Lee and CC Sabathia, certainly on par with them. Cy Youngs aren't given out to anybody, but he's been blackballed officially from the game over an accusation that's proven to be fraudulent in the court of law, and this guy still can't get a job. He was pitching in Japan, now he's pitching in Mexico. Like you were saying, you don't maybe follow some of this stuff as much as you used to, but
I follow that.
Thoughts on Trevor Bauer?
Yeah, I follow that. I mean, my thoughts are probably the same as yours. It's another reason why I won't watch. It's another reason why I deprive myself of the joy that I used to get from watching baseball and the other sports too, because what they did to Trevor Bauer is absolutely criminal. What you said is right. If there was a pending case still hanging over him, I get it. If there was maybe even just still not a proven, but a he said, she said, and it's like, maybe he did these things, maybe he didn't, and maybe the league doesn't want, or Major League Baseball, the owners collectively don't want to have to deal with the backlash from women's groups and so forth. If this guy is in a Major League uniform and it's really, 50-50 as to whether he did those things or not, maybe I get that. Still, probably not, because then due process means you have to be proven guilty, just like in a court of law. I think in order to make a living, in baseball, I think, or for them to deny you the chance to do that, there should have to be, proof, and due process would have to prove that you are guilty. But in this case, it's neither of those things. It's outright acquittal, meaning she was exposed for being a liar. He put forth all of the text messages that he had from her to her girlfriend about what she's trying to do, about what millionaire she's trying to hook right now. Exactly. I mean, literally, he was set up from the beginning. Now, did he make some questionable choices about somebody he decided to go and have a, sexual relationship with, and be as graphic as they were, and be as, whatever the oddities of the situation are? Okay, but you know what? You've got professional athletes that have 11 different children from 9 different mothers. This is the life. It's one of the reasons why a lot of pro athletes want to be professional athletes. It's not just the millions and millions, it's the women that come with it, because it's what they are. They're narcissistic, and they're just, always wanting to fulfill their own fantasies and their own desires and so forth. And you know what? If women want to be part of that, that's on them. Nobody tells them they can't have jobs, the guys, the players, because they do these things. But they're telling Trevor Bauer you can't, because you were set up by a woman. In like I said, which has now been proven, everything in the courts has been resolved, and they won't let him pitch for them. You tell me, how many teams that are in the playoff hunt right now would be looking to sign Trevor Bauer right now, much less 2 months ago, including the Indians, for crying out loud? I mean, absolutely 1,000% if he was allowed to be signed. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's commissioner directive, or if it's, I don't know. If there's some clause in the collective bargaining. I don't know what it is that made him literally be unavailable to all 30 teams, but that is exactly what happened, a full-on blackballing.
Yeah, I don't like this guilty unless proven innocent. I don't like this backward thing, and we'll get into Trump now in just a minute, but the red flag
but
law.
Even so, Brian, he was proven innocent. I agree with you. I don't like that either. That shouldn't be the standard, guilty until proven innocent. But even if that is the standard, okay,
he passed
check.
that too.
He is. They proved that too. So that's the thing that's so infuriating. And I just I hope by the time it's all said and done, he files a lawsuit, some sort of antitrust lawsuit or something like that, because they have literally, as 30 teams, they have colluded. You know what this is? What's happening to Trevor Bauer for real is what Colin Kaepernick claimed was happening to him in a fantasy world. Colin Kaepernick claimed that none of the teams were willing to sign him, that they all colluded to blackball him because he knelt for the national anthem. It is such a complete, again, an easily disprovable lie. Because the guy was given tryouts and he was given opportunities and he sabotaged every single one of them because he didn't want to play. He wanted to continue to be blacked out because that made him a martyr and it made him an activist and it made him millions more than he was making on his last contract with the 49ers, for crying out loud. And he doesn't have to get hit while he's doing it. But he claimed being blackballed over the kneeling thing. He was not. Yeah, I remember when the Dolphins brought him in for a workout, and then he worked out and then had a little press conference, and he was wearing a Castro shirt, for crying out loud. A pro Castro. In Cuban-dominated Miami, he's going to wear a pro Castro shirt and then say, I don't know why they don't want me. I'm blackballed. It's just so much garbage. Trevor Bower's going through the real thing. He wants to pitch, and baseball is doing this to him.
Yeah, Kaepernick was replaced by Blaine Gabbert. Blaine freaking Gabbert took his job.
Yep.
Then Cap was annoyed because he didn't get that bag, using that Trevor Bower phrase. I think the friend of the girl that Trevor was with saying, go get that bag, meaning extort the hell out of this guy, get that money. Kaepernick was benched. He sucked. He was a running quarterback in a fluky kind of trick system that the league sort of caught up on. Yeah. The pistol formation.
His RPO, skills were good. But you're right. I mean, all it takes in the NFL, it takes a defensive coordinator 6, 7, 8 weeks, maybe even a season to see exactly what he does, when he does it, and how to stop it. They did. And as a passer, he just wasn't going to be able to get it done. You're right. He lost his job and then claims that he was and then walked away from it and said, I'm leaving. He left as a free agent thinking he was going to cash in somewhere else where maybe somebody didn't see those flaws. And guess what? Nobody wanted to pay him for all of that stuff, especially considering not only was he not that good anymore, but you bring backup level talent along with top tier level distraction and problems with the with the publicists and with the media in a city because of what you've decided to become as an activist. He made himself unemployable intentionally. Trevor Bauer didn't do that.
Absolutely. I'm screaming from the rooftops that you want the redemption arc in sports. Like, sports is about never giving up. There are so many great lessons in sports. That's why I hate how bastardized this has become as so many people become mouthpieces for Nike, ESPN, ABC, Disney, pushing their extreme views into the sports realm. There are so many great lessons you can take away from the game of sports. And the redemption arc of someone like Trevor Bauer, who hit rock bottom with the Tribe, then he hit real rock bottom getting blackballed. We need a starting pitcher. We really need a starting pitcher. And we've been kind of jockeying back and forth for the best record in baseball all season long. We've been a very competitive team. This is the ultimate redemption arc. And it's not, you don't need to trade him at the deadline. He's just sitting there. Dodgers are paying I think it's Dodgers are still paying his salary. I think so. Got to sign from league minimum, and he still gets the rest. Let's go. What are we waiting on?
He said, I'll pitch for the league minimum. Just give me a shot. He's still one of the best pitchers on the planet. No question about it. The idea that he's not in somebody's rotation right now is crazy. And by the way, even though I haven't watched, like I told you, I'm not blind and I do see highlights and I do see what the Indians have done this year. And boy, can you imagine if Shane Bieber hadn't blown out his elbow in second start or something like that? Yeah. If that guy was still in this rotation,
an ace, Cy Young ace, and McKenzie with his injury. That's always the game. But that's what happened in 2016. We were down to like 1 or 2 starting pitchers. I mean, we were running on fumes. Tito was trying to get his long reliever to, can you pitch 3 innings, 4 innings? I don't know. But
I wish them well. Like I said, I won't spend a nickel on it and I won't watch it on TV, but I will still, when I'm cruising around Facebook, if I see that they hit a home run that Tom Hamilton had a call on, I will watch it and I will play it back again and again and again because I still enjoy listening to a Tom Hamilton home run call more than anything else in sports, to be honest with you.
A swing and a drive to deep right, away back. God.
That's not bad. All right. You working on that?
You've been the sound of my childhood.
Yeah, right.
Macklemore does a song. I don't know if you know the rapper Macklemore, but he has a song about the Mariners. and like interspersed throughout the song, it's about him being in the garage with his dad and Griffey goes deep. Like it's a whole, and then they keep playing this as the Mariners go to like what do they call it? The American League Championship Series that year. It's a really cool song.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's my hope with Trevor Bauer. Bring the guy back, give him a chance. He's an innocent man. But let's pivot to Trump here. Trump has been convicted of a whole bunch of stuff. So now they're saying,
who?
Yes, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. I got Cleveland Crunch.
I love it.
Sorry, I didn't have any Trump gear around me.
Still sounds like a cereal.
Yeah, it does. Crunch. But we're talking about people that are guilty, people that are innocent. Trump has been framed for 8 years now, 9 years, with Barack Hussein Obama at the helm of the three-letter agency, spying on his campaign, with Manafort, we could go through a laundry list of what's been happening to frame Donald Trump, similarly to the way that Trevor Bauer has been framed and blackballed. Except now they're actually trying to take out Trump. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Can we just two converging thoughts I'm going to try to separate here. Number one, let's hit reset and remind me, like, tell us where you were when you became aware of what happened, the emotional arc, and just, I feel like we've lost track of this story, because the second part of that question is, if Barack Obama or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden took a shot to the head, do you think we'd ever stop hearing about it 24/7?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I was in a car and just got an alert on my phone. I was with my wife and I looked down at it and I said, "What the hell?" And you know what it was? It wasn't an alert from the news. It was in a text chat group that I'm in. Actually, Signal. We use Signal, so it's encrypted. And somebody posted, "Trump got shot," and I said, I did. I admit I voice texted it back. I was in the car and I said, "This isn't serious, is it?" And my wife said, "What?" And I said, person in my group just said, "Trump got shot." And she said, "No way." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I kind of feel the same way." And somebody else said, "No, reports are out of Pennsylvania that he got shot." And that was the first thing I heard. And I said, "I'm driving. I can't really dig into it right now." And then it was one text or one message after another. And people were like, "Oh my God, it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true." And so, I mean, I was just stunned. Fortunately, amongst the early messages that I got, it said he's okay. He didn't, he got hit, but he's okay. And so I guess disbelief was, if you're asking what my reaction to it was, disbelief, because I didn't think it could be true. And then when I found out it was true, I quickly was told he's okay. So it wasn't like he got shot, he's in the hospital, we don't know his condition. If one of those happens, like when Reagan was shot, we don't know his condition and we're waiting on pins and needles to find out whether the guy is alive or not, that would have been a very different scenario. But the fact that then, in short order, pictures and video and so forth started emerging of him standing up and doing the whole fist thing, everything else. So we didn't have enough time, I don't think, to be like, oh my God, panic-stricken, saddened, furious because he's okay. It was just then immediately, who the hell and how and why? And then it happened very, very quickly. The part about, well, it was this young kid who was on a roof. It was only 130, 140 yards away, and the whole 9 yards, and it all began. So that, where I was, yeah, I remember, and I remember what my initial reaction was. What my reaction has been over the last, what are we looking at now? It was July 13th, so we're almost 2 months. So 6-7 weeks since then.
It feels like it happened 2 minutes ago, and it feels like it happened 2 years ago.
It feels like 2 years more to me, because they haven't talked. You're right. They don't talk about it. They want you to forget it happened. And you know what? I am so livid at the cover-up that started almost immediately. Well, I mean, that much blood to be shot in the ear. He probably didn't get hit by a bullet. It was probably shrapnel. The bullet shattered the teleprompter, and that glass probably nicked him a little bit. They tried to minimize it and tried to pretend it wasn't that serious, or that it didn't happen at all right from the beginning, and then the cover-up started. that kid's body was cremated 10 days after the shooting, despite the fact that there was an investigation that had barely been launched. It was 10 days later, and the Secret Service director was sitting before a congressional committee having no answers. We don't know yet. We don't know. What do you mean yet? Well, anybody else gets shot in a circumstance like that, particularly a former president, much less a current candidate for president. Within probably 2 hours, they're having a press conference saying, here's what we know. 10 days later, we don't know some of the most basic things. And now, 7 weeks later, Brian, we're finding out that he had 3 different encrypted email accounts overseas, not to mention bank accounts and other things. Clearly, this was not just some idiot, loser, lonely, depressed, SSRI taking, a teenager or a 20-year-old who grabbed daddy's rifle and said, I'm going to go shoot that guy. This guy was working with some people in some pretty big places. The idea that a Secret Service detail would miss as many things as they missed on that day to allow this to happen, for that to all happen coincidentally, is not possible. And I'm no Secret Service expert, but you know who is? Dan Bongino. He served in the Secret Service. He knows the protocols. He knows what the rules are. He knows how everything is supposed to go down in a protection detail, and none of them were followed, which means it's either the worst Secret Service detail ever put together, or it was a conspiracy to make sure that at least one shot got off before they went ahead and reacted and shot the kid who did it. And the fact that, I'm sorry, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but there's just so much, grist for the mill here. But the fact of the matter is, Brian, as inspirational and as iconic as that fist in the air became, fight, 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 there's no way in hell a real Secret Service detail would have let that happen. He has just been shot. They don't know if there are other shooters. If he's on the ground, they are cocooning him and staying on him, and they are bear crawling or army commando crawling off of that stage out the back toward a waiting bulletproof glass ambulance or limo or something. They're not letting him stand back up again and say, look at me. Somebody else want to get a shot at me right now? I mean, there's no way any of that could have happened accidentally or coincidentally. It absolutely happened in a choreographed manner. And the fact that nobody wants to talk about that right now because they are so desperate to make sure he does not win is simply, I don't know. It makes me wonder what country I'm living in right now.
Yeah, there's
that was a lot. Sorry.
Tell me more. There's I think the guy's Psy. He did that Gangnam Style song. I watched a video one time. I was clicking through, and it was like stage footage of the sold out arena and smoke and stuff. And all of a sudden, his cue hits, and he jumps like he's spring loaded up from underneath the stage, and it shoots him up into the air, and then the ground goes solid underneath him, and then he lands on the ground, and that's how the concert starts. He shoots up from there. I don't know why there's not something where, in case of something like that, you don't press a button and Trump doesn't drop into the stage into a safe area,
exactly.
A safe cocoon that's attached to a vehicle. Like all of these, we were saying it earlier about, hoping nothing bad happens to Kamala and having it pinned on MAGA because they would gladly sacrifice her like George Floyd as a living martyr to their cause to ram through something unlikable. But I think it was Brad Metzger. He used to go on, whoever the author was, he would go on with Glenn Beck and talk about the analytic red cell program. And I just like to think outside. I just like to think, what if this, what if that? Well, did they consider this? And but you're talking about the podium, the lectern. Why is that not protecting them? Why is there not a safe spot to drop into? Right behind there, is there a safe cocoon, a box, something you could just vacate, and then you move the box and get like, why am I thinking?
Why
am I the one doing this? I haven't been on their payroll, Secret Service payroll, for this whole damn time. And I got 3 better ideas. Drop down Gangnam Style. You got the Mobile attached to it. Like, why am I thinking of this? I'm sure Bongino had to think of shit like this, but why?
Not only did they not think of these things, just the standard things about, agents being willing to take bullets for their protectee, getting in front of them.
Yeah.
They've got a 5'4" woman standing there to take a bullet for a 6'3" guy. I mean, I'm sorry, but and not only are they not thinking of the stuff that you just brought out, the stuff that is standard protocol, they intentionally omitted. They were offered by local police drone coverage. We've got a drone. You want it up? Surveying the scene? Nah, we're good. They had radio comms available for them at the morning of. The local police wanted to have a full briefing with the Secret Service details so they can combine their efforts. They didn't show up. The Secret Service guys did not show up. They didn't even take their radio, so they weren't even all on the same comms. These are standard things, much less psi boxes like you're talking about. But they didn't even do the standard things. And then they said, well, this guy had a rangefinder, so he was flagged as suspicious when he went in. First of all, why did you not take the rangefinder? That's not allowed in here. Like, why would you want to know how far away you are from him? Are you planning on golfing with him? What the hell are you doing? But they let him go. They let him in, and then they lost track of him. Why? Because they didn't have eyes in the sky. They didn't have a chopper. They didn't have a drone. They had nothing. They had access to one. You know when they asked for it? After the shooting, they said, "You guys still got that drone so we can kind of go up and see what's going on?" I mean, all of these things that are just standard operating procedure were ignored or intentionally declined, which means, I don't know, we may never find out exactly how many people were in on this, Brian, but the idea that this was some lone shooter, and just a few careless mistakes by a Secret Service team that is otherwise professional is just crap. Never in a million years will I ever believe that that's true. And the fact that we are now 7 weeks since it happened and nobody is talking about it anymore, it's like I said, it makes me wonder whether or not we're in some banana republic and not the greatest republic in the history of the world.
Yeah, for real. Kenneth is asking, maybe Trump needs a MAGA helmet. How about a MAGA helmet? Comes out, maybe it's like a hair helmet, but it's like made of.
I like it. I like it.
Something like that. A MAGA helmet. I mean, he's all about selling merch, right?
Yeah, well, it's a shame that anybody even has to joke like that and think about those kinds of things. But in all seriousness, there has to be, especially a guy who everybody knows that Trump is addicted to the outdoor rallies because he can't fit all of his fans inside 20,000 seat basketball arenas. So he's been doing outdoor rallies forever, ever since he started this whole thing back in 2015. And if you're going to have outdoor rallies, you do need to have all of the primary, secondary, and beyond protocols in place for security, because there's just too many ways that things can go south. And the idea that, like I said, that this Secret Service crew didn't even follow the standard operating procedures, much less extra things needed for a massive crowd like he draws, there's something really wrong with that.
Yeah, dereliction of duty. That's the easy way out. You were talking about that little lady that was tasked of protecting Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Remember this famous X post from January. Mark Cuban talking about DEI, saying, "Oh, it's good for business," and he kind of goes on this thing, blah blah blah. Elon goes, hold on, wait, I clicked on the wrong thing. He says, "Cool. You like DEI? So when should we expect to see a short white Asian woman on the Mavericks?"
Beautiful, perfect response.
Mic drop, right?
Yep.
Absolute mic drop with that moment. And DEI, I was looking on your Facebook page before the show, and you had something about DEI, discrimination, exclusion, I forget, something like that. But the job requires something, and it's a 6'3", 6'4". You have to be able to do the job. Can you dunk the ball? Right. Is that a yes or a no? There's no sexism, there's no race. Oh, I can't believe you want. It is the violation of our voting rights. You want to dare ask for an identification? Yeah, bare minimum. Anyone that doesn't is cheating. Can we get more vocal on that? It's just, we're living in an upside down, like you said, a banana republic, not the greatest republic in the world. I want to just kind of add one more thing to the Secret Service thing. Remember when Cheadle, when she went up in front of Congress, I think it was 9 or 10 days, and she had still not even been to the site. And she hadn't called and checked in with people. And she went out there and tried to lie to you and me and say, well, the reason why we didn't have someone up there is because it was a sloped roof. I'm sitting here going, okay, I literally can't with this woman. If you're on an A-frame home, well, look at that fun graphic. Talking about phasing out. But if you're in an A-frame home, I am certain that the Secret Service have little grappling hooks that go to the ridge line of the roof, right at the peak, and they hook and they hook, and they provide you a sitting stand, and it allows you to have a. There's no scenario that a Secret Service sniper hasn't thought out, that our military hasn't thought out. And she came out and lied and said we couldn't protect the president because there was a slightly slopey roofy roof. It's like, yeah, that's what a roof is. And you've been on them forever until just now. The fact that she's lying tells me so much.
Two things about that. The snipers who shot Crooks, were on another sloped roof. Hello? They were on a sloped roof. You said they couldn't be on this one because the roof had a slight slope. Well, the guys who shot him were on a different roof and actually got him. Number one. Number two, I posted on my social media, like shortly after that, a roofing commercial where roofers were on A-frame roofs like the one you just described. And they didn't even have grappling hooks or anything else. They're just leaning their bodies, right? And they're roofing the roof. They're shingling the roof. Guess what? People can stand on sloped roofs, especially the very, mild slopes that we're talking about that were on top of that building that day. If roofers can do it, I'm pretty sure highly trained snipers can do it as well. And the idea that's the reason nobody was up there. And then, of course, later on it became, it was really hot. It was like nearly 100 that day, and it was really hot on the roof. So they decided they would secure the building from the ground, like around the roof instead of being on the roof. They said it was really hot. They kept coming up with different things. And of course, there's an old adage. I'm going to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of, who never has to repeat a lie? And it's the person who's telling the truth. If you don't lie the first time, you don't have to remember the lie. And what did I say last time? What was the reason why this thing that I said was true before? And you have to remember your lie, because as soon as you deviate from it in any way, now you know you were lying. But if you tell the truth, you never have to try to remember it, because it's always going to be the truth. So she lied, and then they put up the guy she replaced, or they replaced her with. What was his name? What is his name now? The acting director of Secret Service. It's escaping me, but it doesn't matter. While she just refused to answer any questions, he got defiant and defensive and was acting as if, they did everything right. And I'm thinking, when you are in Secret Service protection detail, you have one job. There's that old phrase. You had one job. One job. Don't let the guy that you're protecting get shot. Well, guess what? Your guy, your protectee, got shot. Therefore, you're all fired. You did your jobs horribly, and we need to investigate to see whether or not you are just fired because of incompetence, or whether you need to be charged because of intent. That's where this has to go now.
Yeah, I was immediately calling for Cheadle to be arrested and taken to Guantanamo for enhanced interrogation. There's no way that you believe the story that this was accidental. This was a lot of things, and it might have been a few other things, but one thing it was not was accidental. Okay. This was not sloppy. This was intentionally sloppy. I believe Abraham Lincoln was credited with saying, "No man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar."
I like it.
So that kind of gets to
I'll take that. That wasn't the one I was thinking of, but you nailed it. Yep, absolutely.
All right. And then it looks like effective July 23, Ronald Rowe is the acting director of the Secret Service.
Yep, that's him.
I wanted to call your attention to this. Laura Loomer put this out, kind of saying a slope dope. Kimberly Cheadle is a slope dope. All right, I'll take that. But this is Laura Loomer here. She put this out on X. Make sure you're following us, the New American Media, on X. We are at American_media_, and follow Bob Frantz. He is at Strict Speaking. Correct? At Strict.
Yeah. If you're using the @ sign, you can just go on to Twitter or X and search, Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz. You'll find it.
Gotcha. Well, this just came out. This was another video. I'll just kind of play it here. Get a little
recorded history into our country. And of illegal immigration ever in recorded history.
The chart that saved his life. And so if you look right there, you can see Trump, and right there, let me pause it. Trump is right there aiming in the same direction of where he's getting shot. There is a Secret Service sniper right there aiming, looking through his scope in the direction of the shooter. I don't even like saying the shooter's name. But Bob, I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and I said, obviously this was a setup, something that blah, blah, blah. They're like, the person I was talking to said, well, yeah, they had a sniper up there, and I said, well, okay, well, let me just push back that if you were on the Secret Service team and you saw somebody up on a roof in a prone position with a long rifle, wouldn't your instinct be, oh, that's one of our guys? Or isn't that one of our guys? Or like, of course there's someone on a roof with a sniper rifle. That's what we do here. So I could almost understand, especially given how there were no communications. They were told to use text messaging. They didn't have walkie-talkies for some reason. They couldn't patch through to the Secret Service and the local cops.
Brian, they would have known that before. They would have known that before that sniper even got up in his position. They would know where one another are. That's how they don't shoot each other. Everyone knows every position. They have those positions are articulated to one another. I don't know whether they use A, B, C, or I'm in point A or point C, but whatever it is, they are well communicated with one another. We have snipers on A, B, C, D, E, and F, and this is where they are. That's how you know don't shoot them. So if this guy is indeed, as you see in that video, and you have freeze frame there, looking directly at Crooks, he should be doing one of two things: shooting him, before, not after he takes out the target, or reaching down to his little vest right here, his radio collar, and saying, we've got a shooter on the roof over there. We've got a prone position on the shooter over there. Take him down. Meaning, take Donald Trump to the ground. They should have immediately tackled him the moment they saw that there was somebody up there. If that sniper is truly honing in on that shooter, and is and has his eyes on him and knows that is a potential threat, the first thing he should be doing is saying, cover the protectee. Cover him right now. Get him on the ground.
Get him off stage.
Exactly.
In football, I played. Did you play football?
Yeah.
What position?
Tight end.
Okay. Yeah, I was a defenseman, so I went up against your tight end.
Yes, sir.
I was also on kick return, punt return, and kickoff return. And there was something we were coached over and over and over again. I'm sure Secret Service are the same. When you're on you run back, you get in position, you find where you're at, and then you engage and you're blocking. You're trying to let them do a Josh Cribbs, take it 98 yards for a touchdown, right? If something happens and they're unable to get to the ball and the ball bounces and now it can go sideways, it could hit the back of your calf, your foot, your thigh, your ass. You yell, the person behind who can see the whole field yells, fire, fire, fire. There's everybody then needs to disengage from their block and look for a ball that if it touches them, you can lose possession and give them perfect field position to maybe win the game or something. The minute something was off at this day, somebody with a rangefinder, you don't let him on stage, number one. Number two, you pull him off until you figure out what's going on. You yell, fire, fire, fire. Where was that? We saw videos of him. He's on the roof. And I guess the story was they did push somebody up. Yeah. And when he got to the top, the sniper aimed at him, and then he dropped down and broke his wrist or his ankle or something. And then he turned back and got off a quick shot. And we were this close. We were 2 inches away, Bob. The world that we were 2 inches close to. What would that world look like right now? How would Bob Frantz feel if President Donald Trump was taken out by the deep state? This wasn't some derpy kid. How many times back and forth the GPS pings to, what was it, Langley, a CIA office or something? There was a branch at the mall, and there was a CIA, like they're pinging the cell phone data. There's travel back and forth, the 3 overseas accounts, all this stuff. This wasn't some derpy kid. This was a deep state hit. What would your world be right now if Trump were in the ground? I don't even like thinking about this, but it's like we've so lost just how close we came to being in a totally different world. Imagine Kyrie misses that shot. The whole universe of sports is different. Thank God that didn't happen, and thank God Trump turned his head slightly when he did.
Yeah. Well, that chart.
What would that be like for us right now as a nation, as a 2024 election with Nikki Haley, or like what would we?
Yeah, just to underscore that chart, by the way, like he said in a couple of appearances after that, since then, he said, I never looked that way. all of my charts are over here to this side. He talked about it. He always looks to his left. And this particular chart he was referencing, they had mounted to the right for some reason. And so he turned this way. And that's what made it go from bullet entering the brain to just nicking the ear, because he turned his head that direction to look at that chart. That's an incredible revelation that he made. And to answer your question, if he had not turned to look at that chart and he was killed on the spot right there, I don't know, man. I mean, I like to have an answer for everything, but there's sometimes we just got to throw our hands up in the air and say, I don't know. I don't think it would just be automatically default to who was the last person standing in the primaries. Nikki Haley gets it. No, they'd probably, I mean, I have to wonder, we're talking 5 months from, less than 5 months from July 13th to November 5th. I wonder if they even have the election on time. I wonder if there isn't a new primary season started after the investigation has to get started. The government has to be, I don't know what they would have to do, but I wonder if they don't delay the election, which is hard to comprehend. Because you know what, Brian, here, if he gets killed there, you know what never happens? The debate. The debate that ended Joe Biden's career never happens. So he's still president and nominee waiting for his reelection. That changes. How quickly can the Republicans, scramble together a new primary where Trump is not a part of the equation now? And it's, just DeSantis and Vivek and Haley and everybody else ante back up again and say, here we go, let's do this again in an abbreviated fashion. And I don't know. I mean, we're talking about unprecedented times here. If something like that were to happen, I really don't know. But I do know that, let me rephrase, because I don't want to be accused of saying something. I fully believe that this was a globalist hit, and it had allies in the States. It had allies in the Democratic Party. It had allies in the Biden campaign. It had allies in George Globalist's foundations. George Globalist. Did I just say that? George Soros's globalist foundations.
They're synonymous. I knew exactly.
We can call him George Globalist, I guess.
It could also be the Bush family. There's plenty of rhinos, plenty of people in the Republican Party that can't stand Trump either.
Yeah, but I don't think they would have done that. I really don't. The reality is this is coming from people who truly feel like, Donald Trump was an existential threat to this country's power structure. And in many ways he is, but I don't think that Republicans would have been worth doing that or would have been up to doing that. But I will say the fact that, like I said, crooks had these encrypted accounts in multiple countries overseas lets you know that there was a coordinated effort here. Like I said, between his connections, the Secret Service complete dereliction of duty on that day, either intentionally or by, happenstance and coincidence, which it's just not possible. This would have been an absolutely coordinated global hit with American forces, not as in military forces, but forces within the United States power structure implicated in it. Had that happen. And I don't know if we could have been able to square all of that away in time to have an election in November, which by the way, would have then rewarded the people who killed him, because it would have extended, you know what I mean? If they'd have said, we're going to push it back to March for the first time in American history, we're not going to have an election because we have to recover from this and have enough time to reset the scene, the electoral scene here, and we're going to do it in March or something. It gives him more time to consolidate his power and do Lord knows what else. So that's a question that I've never been asked in the 7 weeks since it happened.
I don't like to ask it. I hate asking it because I don't want to put my brain, because they're not done trying. There were mechanical failures on Trump Force One. Over and over and over again. Someone bum rushed him at I don't remember, a week ago.
Didn't JD Vance's plane have to make it an emergency landing? I think that happened too. That happened too.
They're not done. So I don't even like speaking this shit into the universe. I want to, I want to be pragmatic over anything, but I also want to kind of focus on the Trump blowout, the Mondale-esque whooping for Harris.
I gave a speech just a couple of weeks after July 13th, and I said, just in case you were wondering, that's not the only try. They're going to try again. Between now and November 5th, they're going to try again. Who they is, I don't know yet fully, but I'm just telling you, this was no accident. This was no just, wow, what a random thing to have happened, that the Secret Service stood down on a day when some 20-year-old in Pennsylvania got daddy's rifle and took a shot. No, they're not going to stop there. Maybe it won't be a bullet this time. Maybe it'll be something else. Maybe he's going to take a sip of something, and what? How did that get in there? I don't know. The same way cocaine got into the White House. We don't know. We have no answers to that. But boy, he drank something and it killed him. I'm with you, man. I don't like to think about it. I don't like to talk about it.
Yep.
I just hope that we can that we can get past this, have him win, and try to reset.
Yes.
Reinstall the guardrails, which seem to have come off right now in this country.
Yeah, continued prayers for both the Harris and Trump campaign. The Harris campaign, so that they can be tried for treason legally and dealt with in the court system. You were talking about giving a speech. I wanted to bring this up. You recognize any of these guys in this picture?
That's an old one. No, I can't actually tell who the one guy is. I can tell the fat guy, though, the fat guy in the black shirt. Yeah.
Actually, weren't you and I talking about playing some basketball or something? And I think you called yourself a fat guy. I'm like, oh, stop.
Yeah. Well,
like, no. Basketball shape. We'll do this later.
No, I mean at that time, because that was obviously during 2021 in the COVID, COVID nightmare. And at that time, I was about 70 pounds heavier than I am right now. So I could play basketball now. I could not have then.
What did you do to reverse that? 70 down. How'd you get 70 down?
Wheels and heels is what I call it. Well, first of all, I mean, I just stopped eating. Yeah, and that means biking and walking.
Okay.
I do roughly 50 miles.
My brain went to like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something. I'm like, okay, your heels. I don't want to be thinking about any of this stuff. I don't want to talk about Trump, that shot hitting him, and I don't want to think about you and heels thinking about it. But I don't need that.
I do at least 50 miles a week on wheels and heels. I'll generally do around 35 to 40 on the bike and about 10 to 15 on walking, and then I just literally changed my entire eating habits. I mean, like you, I used to be an athlete. And it seems like a lifetime ago, and I stopped being an athlete. And once I started remembering what it felt like to be one again, it's so easy when you go and walk, 7 miles to come home and not get a freaking bowl of Cocoa Puffs. It's so easy when you ride a bike for 20 miles like I did yesterday morning to come home and eat something healthy, because it feeds into itself. When you start eating right and exercising right, one helps feed the other. And it's just the opposite. I mean, what's the opposite of exercising more and eating less? Well, it's exercising less and eating more. They kind of just, that's what happens. And if you start eating a lot, I'm too tired to go work out. And if you don't work out, you're like, I'm just going to go get something to eat. It just builds. And it did that to me for probably about, 10 years. Probably from my mid 40s to my mid 50s, which is where I am now. And about a year ago, I went to the doctor. I got myself weighed, blood glucose check, cholesterol checked, blood pressure check, and all of them were very, 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 very bad. And my wife reminded me something. She said, "You never hear the phrase 'little old man'?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Why do you think there are only little old men?" And she's right. There's no big fat old men. Fat people don't generally get to be old. They die earlier. And she said, you want to see grandkids? Then, find a way to become a little old man. And that's what I'm doing. So
that's great.
That's advice for everybody.
Yeah, I love sharing stuff like this, because we get so wrapped up in the politics and in the back and forth and trying to win the points and understand what the actual story is. That's 80% of sifting through the lies and the slant and the propaganda. But I love actual things that the listeners can gravitate towards, something they can do to make a positive impact. Because how are we going to change what George Soros is up to? What are we going to do about the Middle East?
Like, you mean George Globalist?
George Globalist, yes, his cousin George Globalist. But I like this because it's something we all could probably get a little bit more exercise, eat a little healthier, and it's just in a world that feels so out of control. If you're out in the ocean, you can't control the ocean. You just have to figure out how to navigate it. What is it that you eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner? Like, do you have like easy go-to meals that are? Well,
to be truthful, I don't eat breakfast anymore. That was one of the big things. I loved breakfast, and I would get up, and it's one of the worst things you can do after your body has been, immobile for 8 hours. You're asleep. what in the freaking hell do you need a big old meal for? You didn't just like drain a bunch of energy. I mean, why would you go from being, completely prone to packing on a bunch of calories right then and there? It just makes no sense. So I combine with what I just described to you, with what a lot of people do, which is fasting. It's a 16-hour fast for me. I don't eat past 7 o'clock at night. And then, or 8 sometimes, I'll cut it off at 8. But then my radio show starts at 9 in the morning, so I don't eat breakfast, and then I get off the air at noon. So between 8 p.m. and noon the next day is 16 hours. So I don't eat for that 16-hour period. That's my fast. And then I eat, a pretty normal lunch, and maybe a snack in the middle of the day, and then a decent dinner. And then I combine that with the exercise stuff that I just talked about. So there's a fasting component to it. And the worst thing is that I used to eat really heavy breakfasts, like I said, and I used to eat at night after my wife would go to bed, and I'm up and I'm watching, late night news to kind of see what I'm going to talk about on the radio the next day. And I'll go over and I'll get a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles, or I'll go over and I'll eat, you know what I mean? That the worst time to eat is right before you're about to lay down and do nothing. And then the second worst time to eat is when you wake up from doing nothing. You haven't earned it. You don't deserve food right now. All you've done is lay for the last 8 hours. So I stopped late night eating, stopped eating breakfast, do that fast, do wheels and heels. And you know what, man? Like I said, it's about 14 months in right now. And I feel better than I have since I was in my 30s.
Oh, that's great. I hope everybody takes some of that advice. And I've been able to drop a little bit, implementing a few things that are working. I love to work out in the yard, just working on the landscaping. I love walking and just getting back into the lifting program, just free weights. And when I'm in a regimented program, it happens fast.
It does.
Get back to it pretty fast, but
it's easily motivational when you start to see success happen, And there's one other cliche that some people use that I kind of found too, and it's true. Nothing tastes as good as being healthy feels. And it's so true. I mean, I can eat like the most delicious thing in the world, but you know what? If I look and feel like crap after that, that was not enjoyable. But if I look in a mirror and if I go on a walk and I'm not breathing heavy because I went up 2 flights of stairs, for crying out loud, I feel better than whatever the hell I just didn't eat ever would have tasted. And that's the way I look at it.
A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, I think is what the motto is.
There you go. That's another one. Yep.
Kenneth is saying a DEI breakfast. Okay, so getting rid of the breakfast there. Also, he's saying
DEI breakfast. Don't eat it.
Don't eat it. Don't eat
DEI. There you go. That's the only good positive use for DEI there is. Don't eat it.
Don't eat it. And then Kenneth also channeling his inner Garfield. I fast. I eat fast.
Yeah, I do that too. When I do eat, I do. I'm with you, brother.
By the way, this photo that I brought up, that's you with my father at a.
Oh, is that your dad?
Yes, I gave you the long route there, but you were talking about how you gave a speech shortly after, and I was pulling up this picture. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna talk with Bob today. Finally, been trying."
I remember he introduced himself and told me he was your dad, and he was such a very nice man. And I had some nice things to say about you too. But thank you for reminding me. I kind of forgot what he looked like, obviously, but I do remember that happening. Yeah, very nice man.
It's fantastic. We're all, it's a very small world that we live in.
Yep.
The communication globally has made everything happening, which feels like nothing is. But I mean, we're just so blessed to have the ability to connect with so many people. It can be overload for sure, but I really like it, and I'm glad we're able to do this. Let me ask you something. I got just a couple of quick questions, and then maybe just scan through a couple of the stories in the news real quick here. Back to Trump.
I've only got about 5 minutes left, so pick how you want to spend those.
DeSantis, should he take President Trump and say, I saw what your Secret Service were able to not do by not protecting Trump. We're going to put our National Guard around Mar-a-Lago, and you're not going to get him. Come and get it, Mullen Labe. I don't know that DeSantis is on Team Trump. I didn't really like his whole campaign and the way he handled himself, so I'm not sure that he really is an ally. But I feel like it's clear lawfare. I think it's pure election interference. And I think it should be on the table for DeSantis to surround Mar-a-Lago and just say, you're not coming to get him. We're putting our National Guard here. You're not going to Epstein him in Rikers Island.
You mean if he is sentenced to actual prison?
In about a week, they're saying that they're already setting up, making provisions. They are planning to throw him away. And
I don't think DeSantis would do that, and I don't think DeSantis should do that. I don't think that's I mean, as corrupt as the legal system is, and as corrupt as Mershon is, and as corrupt as Alvin Bragg is, it is still a court of law, and there is a method for appealing, that verdict and those decisions, and it is the appellate process, and that's the way it has to go. I don't think you say we're going to have a showdown here between law enforcement coming to get him and National Guardsmen going to shoot it out over protecting a guy in Florida. That's not going to happen. Second of all, he's never going to Rikers Island. He's never going to a prison where he is actually going to be in prison. If he is sentenced to any kind of confinement, it's probably going to be home confinement. And because he is still going to be, even if he becomes he is now convicted, but even if he is convicted and sentenced to a prison term, he is still entitled to Secret Service protection. And you can't take Secret Service and bunk with him in his cell in Rikers Island and protect him. So they're not going to do that. The goal here is to humiliate him and embarrass him. If they put him in a jumpsuit, you saw what happened. You saw how high his poll numbers went up just when he took the mugshot. If you put him in a jumpsuit and get a picture of him behind bars, oh my gosh, he's going to attain instant martyrdom status, and it's going to just drive people who are, even people who are not fans of his, but are maybe the moderate voters, and they're going to rally to him. So they're not going to do that. If anything, they'll sentence him to home confinement, and then even that is probably something that won't take effect until he either wins or loses, and then by the time he gets out of office. Because if he wins the election, they can't confine him to his home when he needs to go to G-Summit meetings, when he needs to go, he's got to do the job of the president of the United States. So all of that would probably be pushed off afterwards. So I don't think that's an issue. Well,
I've seen Benny Thompson calling to remove the Secret Service, and I saw how Epstein was treated in prison. He was they had cameras that stopped working, like LeBron's garage door, remember?
Yeah.
That they wanted Epstein silenced. He got silenced. So I don't trust Trump being kidnapped and caged based on what I've seen for the past.
No, I agree. But like I said, they're not going to run the risk of alienating whatever part of the population is left that has any, based on what he was convicted of and the manner in which he was convicted. Everybody knows what horse shit this really is. And for them to, like I said, to try to actually lock him up and put him in prison with real criminals, I think it would just be a death sentence for all of their political ambitions.
Kenneth saying, yeah, you get more justice at a food court. Yeah, right? It hasn't been much justice at all. I hope you're right on that. My ear to the railroad track, I'm hearing that it's Rikers. They planned a whole wing. Now, maybe all that's going to be smoking, it'll all puff away. But I think they're dumb enough to do it. And I think they might be dumb enough to try to rig this election in 2024. What is on your way?
That part I agree with, yeah. I do not disagree. They have their cheating apparatus in place, and if they've got to trigger it, they will absolutely do it. They probably only have to do it in 2 or 3 places, 2 or 3 strategic counties, and 2 or 3 of the battleground states are going to be the difference between victory and defeat. I absolutely believe they can do that again.
And your prediction then, as we wrap this up, how do you see this playing out? We got just a little more than 2 months? Are we 2 months? 60 days?
Less than that. We got in Ohio. We've got 30 we got like 39 days or something like that before early voting, because early voting is October 7th. So we're talking, what is today? So we're like 37 days or something like that, 35 days or something like that, whatever the number is.
Yeah, they're showing 63 days until November 5th. So yeah, early voting.
Yeah, early voting is a little over a month. So it's coming very, very fast. Look, if she actually takes the debate stage against him and does what she does, which is she has no choice but to be able to do, but sounds like the imbecilic, fourth grader that she kind of is intellectually. I think those numbers start to open up, and this is maybe just wishful thinking on my part, but Trump said it's got to be too big to rig. And I agree, it does. I think that's what will help it happen. It's why she's only agreeing to the 1 debate, not 3. And it's why she has not done a press conference yet. Even that little softball game that she played with Dana Bash, that's not a press conference. Wait until she has to have a press conference, and Peter Doocy and somebody from Newsmax and somebody from the New York Post and somebody from actual conservative, journalistic outfits get a crack at her, watch her twist and turn, and then that's what it's going to take to get it to be too big to rig.
And so you're optimistic then? You think President Trump has a chance to pull this out?
If I wasn't optimistic, man, I would probably be just cocooning right now and just and hiding. So no, I'm going to stay optimistic. I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to trust that the American people realize this is a binary choice between liberty and a free constitutional republic and communism. You have a communist, Marxist presidential candidate with a Maoist vice presidential candidate, somebody who literally is a Maoist. And if people don't know what that means, look it up. That's who we're talking about. It's a binary choice. And while the hard left wouldn't mind that, which is why they're for her, I understand that, but I have a hard time believing that the center left and the true moderates are going to make that big of a mistake. They saw what life was like under Trump for 4 years. It's not like this is an imagination. I wonder what he would do. They've already seen what he did. He did everything that we wanted him to do, with the exception of cutting spending and the growth of the national debt. He did everything we wanted him to do. Prices were lower. Energy was more available. Homes were more available. Everything that we wanted, we got, and everything that we despise, we have experienced for the last 4 years. And I think, optimistically speaking, yes, I think more Americans know that that's what we have to do, because the other side, it's the most extreme and radical ticket in the history of this country, and it really is a binary choice.
Yeah, and I think the addition of Shanahan, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, these are massive partnerships.
Agreed.
And just in the past couple of weeks, the focus on health, clean air, clean water, whatever they're spraying in the skies from Bobby Kennedy, it's like you can take 8 out of your 10 policy positions, set them aside. But like on the health stuff, I just want to double down and drill down on that. It's elevating the Trump campaign. It's giving more stuff to talk about. And it's just, for me, proving that the message is more important than the messenger. This isn't about Trump. This is about the MAGA movement. And it's former Democrats. It's disaffected Democrats like Elon and Tulsi and RFK Jr. So fingers crossed. I try to avoid being black-pilled myself. So I'm going to stay positive. You stay positive. And we are positively concluding right now. And we're going to get to the rest of our day. Before you leave, Bob, thank you so much for your time. I hope we can do this again. We normally do the Agree to Disagree show covering current event, like with a very structured 5-10 minute thing. Maybe we'll bring you back on to do like something like that down the road. But tell us real quick, one more time, the best places to follow you, where they can check out your show.
I'm actually consolidating all of my platforms under one moniker, because I was branded out there as so many different things. So we're consolidating everything to Strictly Speaking. So the TV show is Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz. The radio show, which has been called Always Right Radio for the last 4 years, is going to be rebranded in the next week or two as Strictly Speaking as well. So I changed all of my social media handles as well. So Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz on Twitter, on Facebook, on Truth Social, and on Instagram. Just look for Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz. Now, in some of them, I had to add USA, Strictly Speaking USA, onto the Facebook one, because Strictly Speaking was taken by some band. So Strictly Speaking USA. So it's all, a couple of little differences, but look for Strictly Speaking. And starting in about 2 weeks, we're going to be launching a new website where everything can be found in one easy to find place. All of my videos, all of my social media, radio shows, interviews like the one I just did with Hulk Hogan. That was fun.
That's awesome.
But that's going to be at a new website called strictlyspeaking.org, which will be launching in about 2 weeks. So if anybody is watching this in 2 weeks, you can click on it and find it and participate as you see fit.
Perfect. Also, a little side show note. We are starting another program. We currently have Strictly Guardians, Strictly Cavaliers, Strictly Browns, Strictly Buckeyes in the Facebook groups. We're starting Strictly Football. So we're not stealing your Strictly thing, but the Strictly minds think alike. I
like it.
George Globalist. On the way out, Kenneth says, Engelman, France, 2028. I don't know. Are you interested?
I would do it, man.
I would do it. Democracy?
I don't know if I could take the second spot, though.
I knew that was gonna be your reply.
I'm an alpha guy, man. I'm an alpha. What can I say?
We'll put the point for it. I don't know. We got a country to save, damn it. All right. Well, Bob, thank you so much. I'm so happy we were finally able to connect. And yeah, maybe down the road we can do this again. I appreciate the stuff you've been doing. Before I became too familiar with you, you were highly recommended from my inner circle of friends. Like, oh, Bob is great. You got to check out. I go, who's Bob? So like this has been a process of us learning to figure out who the other person is. And I really appreciate your time today. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Take care. There he goes, everybody. That is Bob Frantz. Make sure you're following him on all of the platforms. Strictly speaking, he has rebranded all of his stuff. So go ahead and check that out. Wow. Great show. Great conversation. I've been meaning to talk with him for a long time. We are going to be talking with 11-time Emmy Award winner John Telich coming up either this week or next. We're going to be talking sports with him. Looking forward to that. Have a few guests lined up for the Agree to Disagree show as well. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back on our regular schedule, Tuesday, Thursday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. That'll be with Blake Wally. Looking forward to that. Starting that Strictly Football show with Mike Barra. Yes, Mike Barra and I, he's a Seahawks fan and I'm a Browns fan. We're going to be talking about just football. He's going to do a Seahawks show. I'm going to do a Browns show. And then he and I are just going to kind of cover the NFL. We're going to call it Strictly NFL, but maybe you need to license that. So it's just be Strictly Football. We're covering professional football. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we're going to do that Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right after the conclusion of the Agree to Disagree show. So super excited for Thursday. More content coming. We're going to upload some more videos, more man on the street stuff from, I mean, we still have stuff from the Bronx and from, we have too much content to upload, but it's coming. I promise you it is coming. So stay connected, follow the New American Media on Rumble and subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the show wherever you're watching it from, type something in to engage with the algorithm, wherever that is. Also, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/the New American Media. 15 years of content, 13 years of content, 1,500 plus videos coming up on 1,600, I'm sure. Spotify, we are the Agree to Disagree show. Truth Social, we are the New American Media. Parler, the New American Media. Facebook, we have a page of the New American Media and all the TNAM groups for the New American Media. Subscribe to those. On X, we're at American_Media_. We have our page on Instagram, the New American Media. Odyssey is our backup for YouTube. That's the New American Media over there. Patreon.com/the New American Media. If you would like to subscribe and assist us with reoccurring donations for our content, that would be greatly appreciated. And we're on Venmo at Brian Engelman, BrianEngelman. So there you have it. Those are the places to follow us. Follow Bob Frantz on Strictly Speaking. Yeah, Bob, I heard his interview with Trump. It was great. I should have got to. We have good conversations, and it's like there's so many more things that I wanted to talk about. But of course, you know, time is precious, and we all have a million things to do. But yeah, I liked Bob's interview with Donald Trump. I caught that. Geez, that must have been, man, that was a minute ago. That might have been 2 years ago. I also caught his interview, Bob Frantz's interview with Anthony Gonzalez, pretty much ending his political career when he turned on Trump and MAGA, the former Ohio State standout. That was a good interview. And of course, talking with Hulk Hogan. Got to check that. I haven't checked that one out yet. I saw a clip. Oh, that was the other question I was going to ask Bob, was about his Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. Hulk Hogan gave his Mount Rushmore. I agree with two of them, maybe three of them. The third or fourth might be up for debate, but curious. Question of the day: who's on the top four on your Mount Rushmore Wrestling Hall of Fame? All right, so answer that in the comments. Kenneth is a guest? Kenneth is a guest? How do we get Kenneth as a guest? I don't even know. Can I do that? I can't do it from here. Kenneth, you're going to come on as a guest? How are we doing this? I can't click out of this now. Okay. Well, anyway. You as a guest? I don't know. I guessed. Yes, you should come on as a guest. Are you talking for Strictly Football? Are you talking the Agree to Disagree show? I don't know. You're so good on the side over here with your 4 more beers comment. Okay, there you go. Frantz Engelman. I think Engelman Frantz has a better ring to it. Because you don't want to think about France until, I don't know. What did groundskeeper Willie call them on The Simpsons? Yeah, cheese-eating surrender monkeys. Cheese-eating surrender monkeys. Oh, okay, Kenneth. Not now, though. Okay, not now. Maybe later. Maybe later, Kenneth. All right. I'm going to sign out and say good later to all of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate the journey we've been on. We got a lot of stuff planned for the immediate future. Just link up with us where you can. Support independent journalism. And we will be talking with you soon. I appreciate you. I love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.